After the year-end family gathering of my fiancé's family, we were taking a group photo when the internet celebrity Zoey pushed me aside and affectionately linked arms with my boyfriend. Ryan and I have been childhood sweethearts. Before you showed up, that spot was always mine. I told her to stand in the back, but my fiancé frowned at me and said, "What's the big deal about a spot in a photo? Zoey and I are just friends, stop being so jealous." My fiancé's whole family blamed me for being immature, saying a daughter-in-law of a wealthy family should be well-mannered and magnanimous, not like those petty girls trying to cling to a man. At my wedding, my ex-fiancé questioned why he wasn't the groom. I replied, "What's the big deal about a title? My husband and I are married now, there's no room for some outsider to be jealous." Claire. Why make a fuss over a photo spot? Even Zoey, a top influencer, didn't demand the center position, and here you are being picky. Coming to the Lee family with your spoiled princess attitude? Do you really think the whole world revolves around you? Ryan frowned deeply and snapped at me, making the whole Lee family turn their eyes toward me. Their judgmental stares made my skin crawl. Their urging grew sharper, making the whole family wait for a girl who hasn't even married in. The Gu family's company isn't even that big, but look at the attitude. Someone might think Ryan's marrying up into the Gu family. Are we taking this photo or not? I've got a business deal later worth millions. Being delayed by a woman is bad luck. Zoey, who earlier had pushed me aside so arrogantly, now fluttered her eyes innocently and said, "Ryan, maybe I should move to the back so Miss Claire won't be upset. It's fine if I'm a bit wronged, what matters is not troubling the whole family." As she pretended to let go and held back tears, she was showered with praise. Look at Zoey, such a big influencer yet so considerate. Far more sensible than that clueless Gu family girl. If the Gu family weren't clinging to the marriage agreement, Ryan and Miss Zoey would be a perfect match. Ryan grabbed Zoey's hand and declared, "Zoey, you're staying right here. We grew up together, Zoey's like family to the lease. If someone doesn't like it, they can leave." He raised his chin and looked at me like he was sure I'd just swallow it all. The engagement between Ryan and me was arranged by his father while he was still alive. Back then, our Gu family was indeed slightly below theirs. But 20 years have passed, and now our Gu family is thriving overseas with assets many times that of the lease. After Ryan's father died, the Lee family fell into disarray, and Ryan became a Playboy tabloid regular. We honored the engagement out of principle, but to the arrogant Lees, it now seems like I'm clinging to them. I let out a cold laugh and was about to say the engagement could be called off when Ryan's mother spoke up. "Fine, Claire came all this way to join the Lee family. Since she made a request, we'll give her this face. Zoey is one of our own. Just let her make a small sacrifice this time." The words seemed to be in my favor, but the tone made me frown. After offering a sweet fig, Ryan's mother began scolding me again. "Claire, Zoey is beautiful and close with Ryan. It's understandable that you feel threatened. But since you're marrying into a wealthy family, you need to have the vision and grace of a proper daughter-in-law." The Lee family all nodded in agreement. Ryan snorted, moved Zoey from his right to his left side, and said impatiently, "There, gave you the spot. Can we take the photo now?" Over the past few years, the Lees had little contact with us. Seeing how they are now, I decided to call off the engagement. I figured I'd keep the peace for now and talk to Ryan privately after the photo. But Ryan grew even more impatient. "Can you stop dragging your feet? I have to accompany Zoey to an awards ceremony." I froze. Lee's family had originally told me Ryan would go abroad with me to meet my parents after the gathering. "Why didn't you say anything earlier if you had plans?" My parents already arranged the flight. To show their sincerity, my parents had gone through complicated procedures to arrange a private jet. Ryan's irritation was obvious. "How much could a ticket cost?" "I'll pay you double." "Claire, I didn't think the Gu family had fallen this far. Why are you being so petty? Are you taking the picture or not? If not, move aside and stop wasting everyone's time." I laughed angrily and nodded, "Fine. You're right, this is the Lee family's photo. As an outsider, I don't need to be in it. I was going to speak to you privately, but now that your whole family is here, it's a perfect time. Ryan, I'm officially informing you that our engagement is annulled. With that, I turned to leave, only to be stopped by Zoey grabbing my wrist. Miss Claire, I'm willing to apologize, she said. Just please don't use breaking off the engagement to threaten Ryan. Though she appeared delicate, her grip on my wrist was painfully tight. As she pretended to fall, I seized her wrist in return and pinched back just as hard. Zoey, have you been acting so long you've got occupational disease? Don't think I didn't notice, just now was a power move. I spoke in a sweet tone. Well then, the stage is all yours. Oh my. Are you planning to fake another fall and frame me? Let me help you with that. I shoved her forcefully, sending her crashing to the ground, grimacing in pain. Ryan rushed over and helped her up. Claire. What's wrong with you? Zoey was trying to ease things, and you assaulted her instead. You owe Zoey an apology. And my entire family too. Otherwise, I'll really reconsider this marriage. Zoey feigned strength. Ryan, it's all my fault today. I took our special bond for granted and didn't consider Miss Claire might get jealous. She looked at me with tear-filled, defiant eyes. Miss Claire, I understand, some women think love is the most important thing in the world. But I'm not the kind of person you think I am. Zoey turned to Ryan. Ryan, I was going to tell you later, but my cousin has contacted me. He wants me to develop my career in Canton and Hong Kong after the new year. We probably won't see each other often anymore. But since you're getting married anyway, my departure might ease Miss Claire's mind. At the mention of her cousin, Ryan's eyes lit up, and the Lee family buzzed with excitement. Zoey's cousin, isn't he from the Lin conglomerate in Guangdong, Hong Kong? He's a young elite with boundless potential. Rumor has it he treats Zoey better than a real sister. The Lin family's looking to collaborate with mainland businesses. Claire's tantrum might just ruin our Lee family's chances. Ryan's mother, who had looked down on me from the start, now grabbed Zoey's hand affectionately. My good child, why didn't you say something earlier? It's all Auntie's fault. You're about to leave and still had to suffer like this. Ryan's mother frowned at me. Claire. If you're marrying into the Lee family, you must follow our rules. Stop acting like some spoiled heiress. Our family's connections aren't enough to withstand your foolishness. What are you waiting for? Apologize to Zoey now. I frowned, looking at Zoey now surrounded protectively by the Lees. The Lin Group heir is your cousin? Before Zoey could respond, Ryan snapped, now do you see how ridiculous you were? Zoey, with such a background, doesn't even try to fight. And you? What a disgrace. Ignoring him, I dialed a number. Mom, put the cooperation with the Lin Group on hold for now. I'll explain everything shortly. The Lin family had proposed a partnership before the new year. I'd thought it mutually beneficial. But now, I needed to confirm whether the Lin heir was as repulsive as his dear cousin. Before I could finish the call, Ryan slapped my phone to the ground. Claire, still playing innocent? I've been sparing your face this whole time. The Gu family's been irrelevant in China for years. Stop pretending to be something you're not. As I was about to retort, Ryan grabbed me by the neck. Apologize to Zoey. Are you deaf or just stupid? I stomped on his foot and slapped him hard. Ryan. Are you the one who doesn't understand words? Let me make it clear, we are officially done. Ryan covered his face, stunned, finally realizing this wasn't a tantrum. Zoey rushed over, distressed. Ryan, does it hurt? Zoey will make it better, then turned to me with a stern face. Miss Claire, we've all been more than patient with your mood swings. How could you turn violent just because you're ashamed? I sneered at the crowd eyeing me menacingly. I'm a 5th-degree black belt. If it comes to a fight, you'll either spend the new year in the hospital or the police station. Make your choice. This time no one dared to stop me as I walked away, only Ryan gritted his teeth and shouted, Claire. You're the one who called off the engagement. Don't come crying when you regret it. I had just gotten into the car when my mother called. Claire, did you hit someone? And cause a scene at the Lee family gathering out of jealousy? So the Lee family had the nerve to report me first? After I briefly explained the situation, my mother was indignant. This is blatant bullying. Calling off the engagement was the right move. My precious daughter doesn't need to beg to marry anyone. Oh right, about postponing the Lin Group collaboration, you're in luck. The young director of the Lin Group is in the city and wants to meet you in person. My mother hadn't even hung up when I got a call from my assistant. Of course I had to show respect to the Lin Group's young director, so we arranged to meet in 2 hours. Unexpectedly, I ran into Zoey and Ryan at the agreed location. Ryan froze for a moment when he saw me, then sneered, "So you realize you were wrong now? Since you've rushed here to apologize, if you bow and admit fault to Zoey, I'll take back what I said about the breakup." Outside the hotel, a crowd of Zoey's fans stood with phones raised. Upon hearing that I was supposed to apologize to Zoey, they instantly turned their cameras on me. Who is this woman? Why is she bullying our Zoey? Even someone as pure-hearted as Zoey is being bullied. Just because Zoey is kind doesn't mean we, her fans, are. Over the years, Zoey had gained popularity through several dramas and was skilled at crafting her public image, leading many fans to believe she was as innocent as the role she played. In front of the cameras, Zoey looked innocent and said sweetly, "It's okay, I believe Miss Claire didn't mean to push me. Nor did she intentionally insult me with such vicious terms like mistress." Her words ignited the fans' emotions, and I was immediately surrounded. The attackers were mostly young students, so I had to explain while forcing my way out. Seeing my disheveled state, Zoey's lips curled up smugly, though she pretended to be anxious. "It's just a misunderstanding, don't be angry on my behalf." Ryan snorted, "Zoey, you're just too kind. People like Claire, arrogant and willful, deserve to suffer a little." Claire. I'll say it again, all I want is for you to give Zoey justice. Stop projecting your filthy thoughts onto the innocent relationship between me and Zoey. Those inflammatory words further agitated the already emotional fans. Someone, no one knew who, struck me with a heavy camera. Warm blood dripped from my lashes to the ground. As I stumbled and fell to the ground, Ryan actually laughed. "Zoey, look at her. Stupid bitch eating dirt." Just as someone was about to step on me, a screeching car brake drew everyone's attention. A well-dressed man rushed from the driver's seat. "Claire." Through the blood, I saw Zane, the young director of the Lin Group, push through the crowd and shield me. As he bent to lift me, I shoved him away. "Zane, I'm not unconscious yet." I wiped the blood from my forehead and picked up my phone. "I recorded everything just now, see you in court, whoever laid hands on me." At the mention of calling the police, the crowd grew uneasy and turned to Zoey for help. Zoey frowned at me. "Miss Claire, you fell on your own. Insulting me is one thing, but slandering my dear fans? That I absolutely will not tolerate." Ryan chimed in, "You're just using Zoey's celebrity status to stir public opinion against her, aren't you? As your fiancé, I command you not to act recklessly. If you ruin Zoey's future, don't even dream of entering the Lee family again." Zane looked utterly confused and asked me in a low voice, "Miss Claire, what's going on? Do you need my help?" It wasn't our first meeting. We had crossed paths often in business circles and even clashed a few times in commercial battles. I had intended to reconcile with him, but now, burning with fury, no amount of mutual interest could calm me down. I shot him a glare. "What's going on? Why don't you ask your dear cousin?" "Cousin?" Zane looked at me puzzled, then followed my gaze to Zoey. Both parties looked confused. After a moment, Zoey smirked mockingly. "Miss Claire must be making up her own script. First, she pretends to pause cooperation with Lin Group, and now she brings someone to act as my cousin? Maybe Miss Claire is just too desperate to marry into the Lee family and sees me as her imaginary rival." Her affectedly sweet tone made the crowd sneer at me. "She's clearly insane. A pitiful soul blinded by jealousy." Ryan walked up to Zane with his hands in his pockets. "Dude, your outfit's pretty slick, and you even rented a luxury car. How much did Claire pay you to play this role?" "Let me tell you, I'm the heir to the Lee Group. No need to introduce Miss Zoe, right? She's not only a star but also the cousin of the Lin family in Guangdong and Hong Kong. This circle is out of your league, beat it. The Lin family in Guangdong and Hong Kong? Zane frowned and asked back, how come I don't know when my family suddenly got a cousin? Zoe laughed into her hand. Where are you from, some random extra? You're really committed. If you want to act that badly, I can give you a part in my next show. You look decent enough, just don't get led astray by certain people. Zane gave me a wry smile. I think I understand your dilemma now. Is it because my Mandarin's bad? I chuckled coldly. No, it's just that you simply can't comprehend human speech. I didn't bother wasting more words and picked up my phone to call the police. Ryan, seeming completely out of patience, snapped, these two phonies just won't stop. Do you really think the Lee family is just for show? You really picked the wrong day. Zane is coming to personally take Zoe to Guangdong and Hong Kong for the new year. I'll catch this imposter right now, as a greeting gift for Zane. At Ryan's gesture, several bulky bodyguards grabbed me and Zane. I kicked the lead one away, but in the next moment, I saw Zane already pinned down by two men. Zane looked at me with innocent eyes, and I genuinely wanted to poke them blind. Useless, and didn't even bring a bodyguard. Once we were locked in a small room, I frowned at him. What a burden. Zane, whose phone had been confiscated, remained remarkably calm and even managed to get some disinfectant for me. As the cotton brushed against my forehead wound, I winced and drew in a breath. Zane's voice was right next to my ear. I'll be gentle. His breath tickled my cheek as he spoke, so I snatched the cotton from him and pressed it on my wound myself. Enough. Let's figure out how to get out of here. I noticed there's only one guard outside. When you call him in, I'll knock him out. Run fast when we go. Don't hold me back again, Zane. Zane smiled at my tone. I always knew Miss Claire was ruthless in business, but I didn't expect your fighting skills to be top-notch too. I glanced at his exaggerated thumbs up and sneered, I didn't expect a scheming business genius like you to lack even basic self-defense. You seriously go out like this without a bodyguard? He answered calmly, I usually do, but meeting you was a last-minute decision, I didn't have time to call them. Miss Claire, now that the misunderstanding is cleared, can we talk business? They've generously provided such a quiet space, after all, we might as well make use of it. Staring at that sly merchant face of his, I suddenly realized, you did this on purpose? You stayed to find out who's impersonating you outside? Why didn't you say so earlier? Why drag me into this mess? I was somewhat irritated, but Zane looked completely innocent. You know my family's situation is complicated, those illegitimate sons are all eyeing the throne. If I really lost you as a business ally, I at least needed to see which bastard got me into trouble. He chuckled and added, I honestly didn't expect you to stay. I thought Miss Claire would leave without a backward glance and call the police. That was indeed my initial instinct, but in the end, I hesitated. Seeing his half-smiling expression, I threw a cushion at his face. You really are asking for it. You'd better have some serious benefits to make up for lying to me. Just as Zane and I were scheming against each other, the private room door opened. This time only Ryan entered. He looked down at me arrogantly. Claire, you were left here to reflect on your mistakes, not to flirt with some stray man. Before I could respond, Zane interjected, now I understand why the Lee family has been declining all these years. Apparently, when your father passed away, he took your brain with him. I couldn't help but chuckle at Zane's serious tone. Ryan immediately rolled up his sleeves, ready to throw a punch, but I grabbed him and forcefully threw him aside. Claire! Are you insane? You're going to fight me for this stray man? How did the Gu family raise such a barbaric daw? Before he could finish, I slapped him hard across the face. If you ever disrespect my parents again, I'll beat your teeth out. Ryan licked the blood from the corner of his mouth, clenched his fists, and glared at me. Watching Zane calmly rise from his seat, he suddenly raised an eyebrow and smirked. I get it now. This pretty boy's trying to leech off a rich woman. Why don't you take a long look in the mirror? Let me tell you, she's my betrothed since birth. Even if I were done playing with her, I wouldn't throw her to you like charity. As he spoke, Ryan suddenly grabbed me, his hands, clearly skilled in sleazy acts, sliding along my waist, while his saliva-wet tongue quickly flicked across my earlobe. Claire, you caused all this fuss just to become the Lee family's matriarch, didn't you? Well, here's your chance, please me right here in front of this pretty boy, and I'll marry you as promised. You may not be as pure and sweet as Zoe, but you've got your own flair. As long as you behave and know your place, I'll treat you well. Just as I raised my knee, Ryan was suddenly sent flying several meters and crashed against the wall. Mr. Zane, I've already reached an agreement with Miss Claire, no one touches my partner. Zane flexed the hand he had punched with, his expression as calm as ever. Ryan opened his mouth to curse, but instead spat out 2 bloody molars. A male escort trying to defend his sugar mommy? You won't walk out of here intact today. Ryan shouted toward the door, what, are you all dead out there? Get in here and teach this pretty boy a lesson. At his command, dozens of muscle-bound men poured in, all glaring menacingly. How many can you take? I whispered to Zane while eyeing the crowd. Don't hold back now. Zane pulled me behind him by the wrist. It hurts to hit people. These hands are made for making money. I scoffed in exasperation. Would you men die if you stopped acting cool for 1 second? Clearly, the attackers weren't going to waste any more time. They charged at us, each wielding a club. Ryan wiped the blood from his mouth and leaned on the wall to stand up. Claire. Get on your knees now and beg, it's not too late. Otherwise, I'll beat you and that pretty boy to death today, and you'll deserve it for being unfaithful. Your parents won't even have the face to claim your corpse. Damn that foul man. I clenched my teeth and charged forward. After years of navigating the business world, I had both the decisiveness to cut off a limb to save the body, and the courage to burn the ships behind me. As the clubs came crashing down blindly, Zane pulled me tightly into his arms. Miss Claire, I've heard that moments of extreme danger trigger a rush of hormones between people. Watching the club about to strike Zane, I yelled, are you really playing the suspension bridge effect now? Only the undefeated are heroes, otherwise, it's just reckless bravado. Zane smiled faintly, apart from Miss Claire, I've never lost to anyone. With a swift move, he caught the iron rod aimed at him, and in the next moment, reinforcements rushed in, easily dispatching the attackers before us. Those in Guangdong Hong Kong attire were Zane's men. Ryan, now restrained in the same uniform, shouted furiously, who the hell are you people? How dare you cause trouble on my turf? I kicked his already battered mouth, while Zane calmly adjusted his cuff and smiled, Mr. Ryan, Guangdong and Hong Kong have long since returned, what turf do you still claim? The 9.6 million square kilometers belong to our motherland. Ryan held his bleeding mouth, speechless and groaning. Zane looked down at me, Claire, care to watch the show? I cast him a sideways glance, haven't you Guangdong Hong Kong folks heard of the saying, don't air family scandals in public? He shrugged nonchalantly, all I know is that the Lin family can have only one heir, and that's me. Of course I wouldn't miss such a drama, and I even had Ryan brought along. Initially uncooperative, a dose of reality changed his tune, and I patted his bruised and swollen face. Mr. Zane, better confess now. Not everyone out there is your mama, these Guangdong guys won't pamper you. Gagged, Ryan led us to a conference room, where the Lin Group team reported that hidden cameras had been detected. Zane and I were in the adjacent room, and soon the live feed from the meeting room appeared on our computer screen. But the footage that followed made Ryan, who had just been gritting his teeth at us, stare wide-eyed in disbelief. On screen, the sweet-looking Zoe was perched on a man's lap, affectionately wrapping her arms around his neck, while his hand roamed under her thin clothing, eliciting constant moans from her. Cousin Zoe coyly whispered, "Stop it, there are cameras here." The man chuckled, "We've done it on camera more times than I can count, you little tease, always playing hard to get." As he tightened his grip, Zoe yelped and tilted her head to kiss him submissively while he continued to grope her. "Good cousin tonight, Zoe is all yours. Ryan will be here soon, if he sees us, I'll be ruined." Their passionate exchange left Zoe's face flushed deep red. Didn't you also plan to talk business with the Lee group today? As Zoe stepped off him, the man's hand was still under her clothes, sneering with a cigarette in his mouth. If it weren't for your introduction, do you think I'd give a second look to that low-grade Lee group? Zoe kissed the corner of his mouth again. I've settled it with Ryan, he's pooled all his liquid assets to prove his sincerity. With this money, you and Auntie will finally have leverage over Uncle. Once he's gone, it'll be easier for you to take over Lin Group. When that time comes, don't forget to help Zoe revive the Liu family after all, I've risked everything for you. The man licked his lips lustfully and pulled Zoe forcefully onto the table, growling, you seductive little vixen. I haven't even accused you of tempting me, and you're already feigning innocence. Since you're playing with fire, let me help you burn it out. If that damn Ryan shows up, let him wait outside. But you better hold it in, don't moan like you do at home. Ryan's veins were bulging with rage at what he heard. If he hadn't been restrained, he would have stormed in already. I quickly looked away from the obscene scene and asked Zane, nauseated, which branch of your father's lineage is this from? I know a dragon has 9 sons, but this one is beyond explanation. The Lin family had always maintained a low profile, except for the amorous patriarch. Most heirs, including Zane, stayed out of the spotlight. But this half-brother of his was a glaring exception, exuding all the tackiness of a nouveau riche. Surprisingly, even Zane frowned. I don't even know who he is. Could it be that the old man had yet another child behind my back? Zane, who usually has everything under control, rarely shows confusion, yet now he muttered to himself, this is impossible. At that moment, his assistant stepped forward and bowed. Young master, I've seen this man at the old estate. I pricked up my ears as the assistant continued in a low voice, he's not the patriarch's blood, he's the son of Aunt's son from the old house. A couple of years ago, Aunt's son begged the patriarch to give him work, so I took him on in security for a few days, but he had dirty dealings and a gambling habit, so I let him go. Wow, what a twist within a twist. Zane, are you still planning to intervene personally? I lamented the premature end of the spectacle, and Zane, half amused, half exasperated, said, if we don't want to get our hands dirty, we can just unleash the dogs. In our silent exchange, we both looked at an enraged Ryan. As Zoe cooed softly, the conference room door burst open, and Ryan, grinning despite the missing teeth, shouted, Zoe. You bitch. Zoe sprang up in shock, and the man groaned, face ashen. While he turned to straighten himself, he still bellowed, Mr. Zane. Don't you mainlanders know any courtesy when knocking? This rudeness, so you no longer wish to partner with Lin Group? Before he could finish, Ryan tackled him and slammed punch after punch into his face. A mere nanny's son pretending to be Director Zane? Do you think I'm fucking stupid? Zoe, screaming like a hen, rushed to intervene. Ryan, stop. Ryan, are you crazy? You begged me to arrange a meeting with my cousin. What the hell is wrong with you? I know you've always had feelings for me, but I told you we can only be friends for now. Ryan slapped Zoe savagely. You still have the nerve to speak, bitch. You swindled my money to build up some random man's confidence? Do you think I'm an idiot? Whoever had feelings for you? Don't disgust me. You claimed your cousin is the Lin Group heir, this is the trash you're proud of? Zoe, who had always been pampered by Ryan, burst into tears, face filled with grievance. Ryan. How can you talk to me like this? Wasn't it you who said, even after marriage, even with another girlfriend, you'd always reserve a place for me in your heart? My cousin is the Lin Group heir. The Lins aren't some small clan like yours. Having illegitimate children is perfectly normal. The law even stipulates that they can inherit. And my cousin is the one who has always won Uncle's favor. Ryan glanced at Zoe, her neck stiff, as if seeing his own foolishness, and sneered with blood and saliva at his lips. You stupid bitch. He's not even an illegitimate son, he's just the Lin family nanny's kid. Zoe, you're a minor star, how dare you consort with a nanny's son? You disgust me. From today on, Zoe, you're forbidden from ever setting foot in my Lee household again. I'm an engaged man now, why won't you stop shamelessly clinging to me? Guards, strip these two trash and dump them on the street. Zoey and the man were bound naked together and thrown onto the street, where many of her lurking fans waited. The so-called protection squad were too shocked to speak, but they instinctively snapped photos. The commotion only ended when someone called the police and both were taken away. The next I heard of Ryan was after I returned home. My parents said the lease had called repeatedly, begging our forgiveness and asking for another chance. It seemed Ryan had finally taken an interest in me, his fiancé, and learned of my family's circumstances. Ryan says he's coming to see you. My mother, watching me try on a wedding dress, looked exasperated by the entanglement. That Lee family really has no shame. No matter what your father and I told them, they insist you're engaged, and even loudly publicize it back home. Many people who don't know the truth have been calling to ask if we're really merging with the lease. Complaining, she gazed at me in white tulle. Zane has good taste, those gowns he sent are top-tier designs. Of course, that's because my daughter is beautiful. I snapped a photo of myself in the mirror. Soon, a brand new social media account posted it. Hello everyone, I am Zane, husband to Group's heiress. Zane and I are getting married. Naturally, it's not due to the suspension bridge effect, but because we both believe each other is the optimal choice. In Zane's words, we're equally wealthy and outstanding, of course we should join forces. Then, catching my gaze, he cleared his throat, ears flushed. Besides, I have unwavering affection for Miss Claire. Likes and comments exploded, just as people began to question the account's authenticity. The Lee Group's official account also posted my wedding photo. Greetings, this is our Lynn Group's future lady. We ask those clickbait channels to show restraint, stay out of this. This once-in-a-century spectacle of bride collision instantly went viral, and the Lee Group spent the next 24 hours clownishly responding to every comment. A vlog was also released. Our young master is going to pick up the young madam. Some people trying to gain attention can only watch with envy. In the footage, Ryan sits on the plane, giving a deliberately affectionate kiss to the camera, saying, "Claire, I'm coming to marry you." Actually, during the time when my parents were desperately trying to appease the Lee family, I wasn't spared either. Ryan somehow got hold of so many phone numbers, blocking one after another. The disgusting messages made it impossible to eat. Claire, my wife, on the nth day of missing you, I have deeply realized my mistakes and am actively correcting them. I promise that there will never be any childhood friends or confidants around me again, you are the only one in my life. I will be faithful to you forever. Moreover, he seemed afraid that I wouldn't know, so he forwarded all the details about Zoey to me. After that day, Zoey was completely ruined. Her passport group personally placed her in the pillar of shame. Besides the public Red City encounter, the footage from the meeting room was anonymously spread widely. Everyone said that no snowflake is innocent when an avalanche happens. I am willing to be the last snowflake that brings Zoey down. I didn't want to share this, but then I thought, maybe they're just missing me. Big gossip. The man thrown out with the cheap that day turned out to be her cousin. Wow. Others are playing with the joke, but really went all the way in private. Zoey's cousin's mother was also kicked out by Lynn's mother. It turns out that the unmarried woman who was pregnant at the time, to avoid being overshadowed by her mother's family, claimed that her son was an illegitimate child of the Lynn family and the most likely heir to the family fortune. Zoey's acting really takes after her aunt's teachings. Zoey's cousin was already a compulsive gambler, originally intending to scam money from the Lee Group. After failing, he vented all his anger on Zoey. Not only did he sell Zoey's private videos to the dark web, but later even Zoey mysteriously disappeared, with no news. There were occasional rumors saying Zoey was seen in a Northern Park area. Ryan swore that he would marry me home. But after landing, he found that the Wordsley Group had surged to the trending list. He excitedly thought they were all his supporters, only to find a sea of curses when he opened it. The Lee family is too shameless. It's like a blatant robbery. It seems like he's just riding the wave of popularity. The authorities should investigate this. Is Ryan on drugs or something? Ryan's trembling hands flipped through the messages one by one, and finally, he found the answer. After he boarded the plane, both the official accounts of the Goo group and the Lin group posted a wedding photo of me and Zayn. There were no more words, just the character for happiness. Beneath it, the blessings poured in. Look at them, this is old money. Elegant, poised, and generous. I wondered why they didn't tear into the Lee family. It seems they were afraid of getting their hands dirty. No comparison, no harm. Looking back at the Lee family's behavior these past few days, it really wasn't presentable. Thanks to Ryan, the entire Lee family was swept by curses, and the board of directors, due to the negative impact, jointly dismissed Ryan as acting chairman. At the time, the people from Lee Group who had been unanimous in their support for me were now in a fierce fight. I heard that Ryan's mother was so enraged that she suffered a brain hemorrhage and was hospitalized in critical condition. Yet Ryan was still unwilling to give up. He searched and finally found the location of mine and Zayn's wedding, but because he didn't have an invitation, he couldn't enter. Hiding outside in a disheveled state, Ryan saw our wedding car and actually tried to break through all the obstacles to stop it. With tears all over his face, he cried out, "Claire! You are my wife. We were betrothed from birth. How could you back out of the marriage? Claire, I know you're just angry. You're mad that I was once deceived by Zoey. But I've changed. Why can't you give me another chance? Claire, I love you. I swear I'll make it up to you for the rest of my life." As the wedding car passed by him, I lowered the window and saw Ryan's eyes immediately fill with hope. "Claire, have you come to your senses? We are husband and wife. I'm here to marry you. The place beside you should be mine. I am your husband." Looking at the shameless, crazed man, I sneered, "What's so worth fighting over about a title? Besides, I'm married to my husband, Mr. Zayn, and as a failed stranger, he really has no right to be jealous. Ryan, this is the last time you'll have the chance to appear in front of me. From now on." With a look, Zayn immediately understood and pressed the accelerator to the floor. The sports car roared, and the exhaust fumes wrapped tightly around Ryan. Ryan couldn't even see the tailpipe of my car. "Zayn." I looked at the message sent by the assistant on my phone and suddenly pushed Zayn, "Why are you buying Lin Group? Did your brain get squashed in the door? Is there any hope left for this company?" Zayn looked helpless. "Miss Claire, do you want to see the acquisition price? Even if it's just scrap metal, it's nearly the same. Besides, do you doubt my ability to revive the dead? I've revived so many small companies that were on the brink of bankruptcy. Besides, can we not talk about such unpleasant things on our wedding night?" I pressed my finger against Zayn's firm shoulder. "Then tell me, how much profit will this company bring by the end of the year?" "Zayn, I married you, so every investment from now on will be joint property." Zayn snickered. "The money for the acquisition came from my own pocket, and the profits will be marital property. Miss Claire, how can you be more of a businessperson than me?" The handsome face was right in front of me. Zayn took my hand and placed it against his firm abdominal muscles.